So, Berto, I thought we would tackle some short questions that deserving listeners have been emailing to us, and they deserve us to answer them.
Go shoddy, shabade.
So let's introduce the podcast. This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Who are you, Berto?
My name is Humberto Castañeda, and I change tires.
For a living or just...
No. This is fun. It's a hobby.
Because you normally say your job.
Yes.
So what's your job?
I'd rather not say it on the podcast because it's like personal information.
Oh, okay.
But I'd like to discuss my hobbies, like changing tires.
Yeah. So from now on, at the beginning of the podcast, you're just going to be like, and I like watching movies sometimes.
Long walks on the lava.
I want to give an update on the Mgtow episode.
Mgtow!
And any thoughts that you have about that episode that we made?
I'm sure we got a lot of love. We were very compassionate.
There were a lot of dumb comments. All the dumb comments come on YouTube. So if you're one of those assholes on YouTube that I talk to every now and then, you can listen to me now again. I received a lot of comments on everywhere, emails, Patreon, YouTube,
right.
Facebook, etc. YouTube is always where the assholes live. It's weird. It's like none of them are on Facebook. None of them email me, actually.
Right.
The last time I got like an actual angry email, I don't know, it was just a long time ago.
But it's because, for someone to send you an anonymous angry email, they got to go through the trouble of creating a whole other email account and stuff like that. But with YouTube, they're already anonymous.
Right. So actually someone did. Someone actually sent me an email in response to the Mgtow episode, which I don't even... Do you know by now if they call themselves Mgtow? Pronounce
I
Mgtow?
have no idea.
Anyway.
All I know is I like it. Mgtow.
But someone,
like Midtown.
Someone actually created, I remember now, an email account just so they could send me an angry email about Mgtow. Because I think they actually are regular listeners that we know of them anyway. But anyway, my point is that there was the only person that actually criticized the episode that I found to be a valid criticism was essentially someone that was saying you didn't talk enough about the fact that Mgtow comprises of a lot of different kinds of people. Mm. And some people identify as Mgtow who aren't misogynistic or isn't a jerk or, something like that. And so, okay, granted, or and the other criticism from this person who emailed me with this fake email account said that we didn't do enough research. And sure, yeah, you could.
I'm a man. What more research do I need to do?
But what I did was I Googled it, obviously, and I went to the website, and I went to forums on Reddit, and I went to as many places as I could to gather as much information. And the thing that I didn't see was a voice from what I might call to be mature
Mgtowans.
Yeah. I only found toxic comments from people. So yeah, I'm sure there are people in the KKK that are like wonderful human beings. You know what I mean? In fact,
are you sure about that?
In fact, I know I can't remember where I learned about this, but I remember actually either a documentary or something about, people who associate themselves with white supremacy who they for the most part, we would agree, me and this person, but then they just have this one wacky belief that they would never actually act on in a malicious, hostile way. They just think that they just really like white people and really think about white, purity and stuff like that. But they're not a Nazi and they don't want to harm anyone. Right. They don't want to. So anyway, they
themselves are not going to hang anyone, but they're not going to stand in the way of it, but
Right. Obviously, there's this whole element of like, why associate yourself with an organization that literally wanted to wipe out certain people and kill them. And same goes for Mgtow. But anyway, of the people, so there's, you could say we didn't do a lot of research. Okay, fine. You could say we didn't present, the fact that there might be some responsible Mgtowians. Okay, fine. But I will tell you that there were two other kinds of categories of responses that were negative. Okay. Plenty of positive. By the way, all women. One man actually on I don't know, anonymous patron. I won't say his name. I've actually interacted. Actually, both of us have interacted with him, but he used to be in Mgtow and he has renounced it, and he understands like what leads someone to go there, and now understands it for what it is, which is basically just hurt men who are suffering, who are acting out their anger, and they don't know how to process their experiences of like being rejected by women and having a hard time dating and that kind of thing. But anyway, there were two negative comments, all from
two negative types,
seemingly from all men.
Yeah,
only on YouTube, and one was just like flat out just ridiculousness, just like, you're an idiot, and
you're in the pockets of big woman.
Yeah. And sometimes I'd be like, did you even listen to the episode? Because I can't think of a more fair way to have described what Mgtow was. I mean, I spent the first 45 minutes basically reaching out and saying like, I get why you're there, and there are certainly wonderful aspects to Mgtow. Like, go your own way. You don't want to date anymore. You're done. You're done with women. You're done with romance. Okay, that's fine. Nothing is wrong. And
maybe I was negative.
and I spent the first 45 minutes reviewing actual examples of when men are treated badly because they're a man, and that happens. And how often do you hear that from someone on the internet?
Dude, like this BS. Why can't a couple of us guys just talk about our beliefs on the podcast without getting a whole bunch of hate mail? See, but they're getting after us guys, man.
Yeah. And so there was just this kind of ridiculousness, but there was another category where they would either start with one comment or the beginning of their comment where it was the good part of it, where they'd be like, well, I don't really understand, I get what you're saying, but I'm a part of Mgtow because I like to go my own way because I don't want to be involved in romance, and I just kind of want to take a break. And either comments down, or as this paragraph progresses, it just and the last few sentences are just that total
scathing.
Just, I hesitate to put like actual terms like toxic masculinity or misogyny in there, because those words are just so like misunderstood, I think, by a lot of people. But anyway, just statements like, why would I ever want to marry a woman when all they want to do is just take my money? That kind of stuff. And it would always devolve into that. Right. And every time I would start with these people, this category, I'd be like, oh, great. I found someone who's rational in Mgtow. I'm always looking, me.
Yeah.
I'm always reaching out to the other side. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm always like with Republicans and, Trump supporters, like, me, man. Like, I frustrate you with the fact that I like try to understand.
You're like sitting there, the Nazis are invading our home, and you're like, well, hold on, let's hear them out. I'm like, come on.
I mean, exactly. So
the aliens are anally probing us. You're like, well, I mean, they might be after something interesting.
Hey, give and take. So, as I'm reading these comments, I'm thinking, oh, great, I have a bridge, I have a bridge to the Mgtowians.
The bridge to nowhere.
And then it just, every time. And I just wanted to talk about
now,
that.
Why are they so upset that the women want to take their money for the relationship? Don't they want someone to make them a sandwich?
So, patron Natasha writes in and asked us to give our top 10 Seattle restaurants.
Okay.
Did I tell you to prep for this at all?
Top 10 restaurants?
Yeah.
I have top 10 restaurants.
Okay, so go ahead and give me some restaurants.
Okay, I got Assaggio in my top 10.
And you gotta pick like your number one, by the way.
Oh, my numero uno.
Yeah. So
okay, I'm gonna go shout out to my. Do I start with number one?
Whatever you want to do.
I'm going to start with number one. Assaggio, ristorante.
Oh, yeah. You and
Morrow.
You and I have been there. The owner.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only a great restaurant, but it's got a lot of emotional significance for me. I've been going there forever. The owner is a dear friend, and many of my friends, we've been there for many years. So that's my numero uno. And it's great food. It's fantastic food. It's right on 4th Italian.
Yeah. It's a classic... I think it's been there for decades.
Yeah.
Italian restaurant
Yeah.
right down in sort of in between downtown and Belltown.
Yes.
And it's that classic Italian feel.
Yes.
Big plates.
And he comes out, and he himself is not actually Italian, but he might as well be, because he comes out, he's like, Humberto Bello, oh, welcome here. And then he just hugs you and kisses you.
Is he American?
No, he's Middle Eastern.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to start not with my number one. I'm gonna now. This is very easy for me to do, actually, to come up with my top 10.
Or Greek, one of those from the faraway lands, Terrible.
This is easy for me to do, to come up with my top 10, because I'm a Yelper.
Yeah.
And I've been Yelping for, I don't know, over 10 years. Probably 13 years. Ever since
you take
Yelp.
this seriously.
Yeah. And people are always complaining to me about my Yelp reviews because they're very short. But to me, I don't use Yelp to broadcast my thoughts to other people. Yeah. I use it as a log for myself.
Okay, got it.
Because I forget where I like to go, and so this helps me. And so I've rated almost 2,000 restaurants just in the Seattle area. You know what I mean?
Good burger.
Yeah, really. I mean, to me, it's just like, great burger. That's all I need to know. Yeah. And actually, Yelp now, more recently, has stopped letting me do that. It's like your review has to be longer, which I find to be really stupid. It's like, if you can't summarize your thoughts in 12 words, like why do I need to write
got
more?
Time for that?
Yeah. I'm not including delis or bars because it just makes it, kind of confusing.
Sure. You're like sit down restaurants.
And I'm basing this list mostly on food experience, meaning the food, is it good? I'm not necessarily going off of service or ambiance or something.
But that's important. Okay, so you're really going after the food angle.
Right, because that's a whole other thing. I mean, for example, the Space Needle restaurant, everyone has to go there every few years.
Because of the ambiance and the view.
But the food is terrible, and the service,
it's expensive.
The service and the food are notoriously terrible.
So many years ago, at my work at the time, I guess I can talk about it. I was a framer, framed people. I got a gift certificate to go to the Space Needle, and so I took a date, and this was many eons ago. The gift certificate was for $100.
That's not. That's not enough.
But this was eons ago, back when the dollar was worth like $100 or whatever. And I was like, dude, it's amazing. So I was so excited. I thought we was gonna eat like kings and stuff. We ordered a couple appetizers and the dinner. The alcohol alone blew right through that. And there was no way. Like we ended up spending like 3 times as much. And it was not money we had.
Well, now they're renovating it.
Are they?
Well, haven't you seen it? It looks all funny now because it has like all this scaffolding around the top.
I haven't seen it.
Oh,
what city is this?
And they are making it so that everything is glass. So, although I've seen pictures, so I'm not quite sure. But from rumor and from the internet,
that'd be trippy. Like you look down in your
So it used to revolve.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole restaurant would revolve around, and so if you had dinner, you'd go around like 5 or 6 times, and you'd see all the different sites around Seattle.
By the way, my prom was at the Space Needle, but not in the restaurant. It was like in a floor below or something.
Right. There's another kind of banquet hall. Well, no, actually, there's the observation deck. That's probably where you were.
Well, we got to go to the observation deck, but where the thing was held was in the banquet hall below.
That's like halfway down, actually. Yeah. So anyway, it would revolve. But now they've changed it so that the floor is actually glass or resin or something.
Whoa.
And then the chairs and the tables are also glass.
What?
So like if you're sitting there on your table, like you're floating in space.
It's Superman's Crystal Palace?
Yeah. Anyway. I'm only talking about the places that are open today because many of my favorite restaurants have actually closed, particularly my favorite burger places.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
And this is just in Seattle proper, not.
What was your favorite burger place?
My favorite burger place was Burger Hero, which was in Belltown.
Oh, I never knew of this place.
Let me talk about burgers a little bit because I love burgers. I love French fries. I love tater tots. I love onion rings. And the thing about burgers is that as they became more gourmet in the last 10 years,
Right.
they started becoming bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, impossibly big.
Right, and possibly tall.
Yeah.
Because what they wanted, actually my second favorite was Lunchbox Lab,
Right.
which I think is also closed.
Oh, did they?
I think so. I think and then there was actually this place in Ballard that I can't remember the name, but anyway,
The 8 ounce or whatever.
no, that's my favorite 8 ounce. That's on Capitol. That's still there. But anyway, and so I would look at this burger and I'd be like, oh my God, this burger looks amazing. But then I'd try to shove it in my burger hole.
And you can't.
And you can't do it.
It falls apart.
Right. It starts to fall apart. It's dripping all over your hands.
Yep.
I need 10,000 napkins. It's just like, and then I would go to a place like Burger Hero where it's, it's flat. It's still big and juicy, but it's like, you can fit it in your mouth, which is, sort of like a requirement, right? And it was good and, and on the flame and anyway. Okay. So,
it's like, do you remember back in the day, you'd order a Big Mac, but it like would be sitting for a bit and then get all soggy and then like the bread was flopping all over the place and you're trying to eat it. And it's
I don't remember that. I do remember so I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about some guy who has the record for eating the most Big Macs like ever. He's eaten like tens of thousands of Big Macs or something. That's all. That's all he eats.
Oh my God.
And he was talking about how they cost like $4.50 or $4 something. And I was like, a Big Mac?
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because to me, a Big Mac is like $1.25.
Yeah.
But like, I think times have changed.
It's just soy, right?
Okay. So I couldn't narrow it down to 10, so I have 11.
Okay.
So number 11 is Canlis. Have you been to Canlis?
Oh, yes.
So it's on Aurora. It's one of the fanciest restaurants in Seattle.
It's amazing.
And to me,
that's in my top 10 too.
Okay. Because to me, I think Canlis really delivers. If you want a fancy dinner and a fancy experience, but it's not intimidating.
No.
Like you go in there and it's definitely fancy. Mm-hmm. They have 10,000 pieces of silverware. They have, I noticed I've only been there once. I noticed when I was there that there was a different waiter for every single action. So if they filled the water, different waiter. And then the next time they fill the water, different waiter. And then it's like 10 courses,
So I found out about that place from our common friend Mgtow, Michelin tires.
Yeah.
Because but he thought I was crazy for never having heard of it. So I've only been there twice. One time I think with him and his mom, and then one other time with a team from work.
It's got a great bar too.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't realize. You can just go in there and go to the bar. Because it's a nice place, has a nice view.
Oh, it's beautiful
of Lake Union and stuff.
Actually, to get there though, it's a little.
Well. What do you mean?
Well, no,
it seems sketch, but it's actually not. I mean, you have to do valet because they don't have a parking. But
it's just, I feel like that whole area there. It's like when you're in the nice places, it's fine, but I wouldn't walk around there at night.
I don't know. I think you're thinking of a different kind of zone of Aurora. You know what I mean? For sure.
Maybe just because Aurora in general just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Absolutely. Yeah. Number 10, Chandler's Crab House on Lake Union. It's by Daniels. Have you been there? Chandler's Crab House.
Think so.
It's great. I was making this list, I was like, well, I got to pick like a seafood Seattle place because you got your Salties and your Pike Place chowder and you know what I mean? So it's like, I got to pick a Seattle place. And to me, it's Chandler's. Chandler's is the best food. And it's really not the most famous of this. Seattle is known for Salties and what's the other big one that people always go to?
Anthony's.
Anthony's. And those places, or Ivor's. Those places have nothing on Chandler's. Like Chandler's is actually
I mean, I must have been to Chandler's. I know the name. I must have been there, but...
Number 9, Mashiko, which is West Seattle.
Whoa.
It's at the Junction, and it's Japanese food. It's probably my favorite tasting Japanese food in Seattle. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to choose because there are literally hundreds of Japanese restaurants in Seattle, and I've reviewed like 150 of them.
Oh, my God.
And Mashiko has occasionally been my number one. It's in West Seattle. The nice thing about it is that it's all environmentally sound fish.
Really?
Yeah, so they don't actually have certain kinds of fish.
Oh, I want to go try this.
Because they make it, they make sure that the fish that they're getting isn't harming the environment.
Sustainable.
Yeah.
Okay.
And run by a half Japanese guy. Number 8, 8-ounce burger bar on Broadway. Big burgers, but not too big. They got great shakes. They got great tots.
Yes, they do.
They got great tots. They have good drinks, and it's a great atmosphere.
They have one in Ballard too.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 9, Tacos El Asadero.
What?
Tacos El Asadero.
Tacos El Asadero.
It's a taco bus on Rainier Avenue.
Really?
It's literally a bus.
You get on the bus?
Like an old school bus that they, renovated into a taco stand. And you actually walk on the bus like you.
Oh, you really do?
Yeah, you get on the bus
gosh, that's
like
hilarious.
and they cleared out all the seats and created these like benches and stuff. And there's a lot of great taco buses in Seattle, but this one's my favorite because I think the food is really great but it's super cheap. Like you could probably get a meal there for $3.
Wow.
And the best of these taco trucks, the people do not speak English. You know what I mean? Like when you're talking to them, it's a process.
Right.
Number 6, Cafe Mox in Ballard. Have you been there?
No.
It's a restaurant bar game shop.
What?
So they sell like D&D stuff, but like also like every Settlers of Catan expansion.
I need to move to Seattle.
And they the great thing about Cafe Mox, and there's one in Bellevue too, but the one in Ballard is better. You can go there and actually the food's pretty good, and you can get beers and drinks and stuff, and you can just grab a game from the retail side of the place, and a staff person will come and open the game and explain it to you.
Wow.
So you can sit and they'll sit there for like 45 minutes, and because some of those games.
Oh, you and I have played one of those games. Remember?
Yeah.
Remember, was it Lord of the Rings game that we played?
Yeah.
It took us like an hour just to start.
Right. Right. So it's great, and they also have like private rooms in the back that you can play D&D in and stuff. And
that's cool.
And some people actually dungeon masters will just go back there and like hang a shingle, and you can just walk in and play.
Oh man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Are you worried that your food might get cursed?
Number 5 is Seattle Fish Guys. It's in the Central District. Again, half Japanese people, I think. And it's pretty new, and it's a deli. So this is the one deli I allowed,
Okay,
because it is amazing. So,
Really?
so they basically have sushi there, like sashimi,
Okay.
like slabs of raw fish, and they have seaweed, the Japanese seaweed, and they have shrimp, and they have chowder,
but it's a deli.
But it's a deli, but it looks like a fish deli. When you walk in, it looks like a fish counter. They got all the fish, on ice, blah blah blah. But they also serve for really cheap prices the best sushi you could probably get in Seattle.
Oh my god!
Because they just make it right there.
Right.
They're the wholesalers, so they just chop it up.
Oh, interesting.
And it is so good. Seattle Fish Guys, Central
Seattle
District.
Fish Guys.
Go there. Number 4, Bakery Nouveau, another West Seattle Junction place. There's also one on Capitol Hill. It is a French bakery. And again, I'm breaking my deli rule again.
You're like, no delis. But, 20% of my choices are.
But, man, Bakery Nouveau, I can't tell. Actually, I left off another one off this. There's a Vietnamese deli in Little Saigon.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, okay.
That I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, they had the best banh mi sandwiches. I gotta
try those.
I used to go there twice a day. I'd drive across town just to go to Little Saigon and get 1 or 2 banh mi sandwiches. I was so addicted.
Well, because there's a place right by where drummer Paul lives, that has banh mi sandwiches, like on the block where he lives.
Yeah.
And those are really good. But I've not tried these other ones that you're talking about.
Yeah, there was something about this one place, and I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, but Bakery Nouveau, has some of the best pizza,
Okay.
the best turkey croissant sandwiches, like with good mayonnaise and good cheese and good mustard and but the best pizza too.
Best pizza. Wow.
And the best like macaroons and the best like
nice.
little cakes and the best tarts and the best what else do they got?
Bakery Nouveau.
Yeah, Bakery Nouveau.
Okay.
Number 3,
Is it pretty new?
no. Number 3 is Maneki, which is reportedly the oldest restaurant in Seattle.
Oh, really?
It's been around for like 150 years.
No way.
It's in what they call the International District. Used to be called Chinatown. Used to be called Little Japan or Japantown. And it's Maneki, and it is the best menu. And when I walk in there, not only do the people who work there, but just the vibe, it reminds me of my grandma's house.
Oh, wow.
It just feels like I'm walking into my grandma's house.
I have been there once.
It is the
and
best.
It was fantastic.
So there's all these different rooms.
Right.
There's like a bar in the front, and everything's crammed in, which is real typical to Japanese layouts. Like
I am right that that's one of the places where you sit, like your legs go.
Well,
under,
so they have tatami. They have a bar, like a small bar, and then they have regular tables, and then they have a couple of tatami rooms where you sit on the ground.
And so my
and then there's
question,
another bar in the back.
okay. So one question I had is that how it is in Japan, or did they do the leg holes just for the U.S.?
They do that in Japan with the leg holes, but
Why don't they just build it higher off the ground with seats?
because it's just traditional, and also in Japan, there's just a lot of variety to the way people sit in restaurants in Japan. Japan has a lot of different kinds of restaurant culture,
It tripped me up the first time I went there because I thought I didn't see the holes, and I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be so uncomfortable." I'm gonna have to
Right.
And then, you know what it reminded me of? Did you ever have the Tauntaun toy when you were a kid?
I think I might have.
So
My little brother did because he was so spoiled. He had all those things.
So I watched the commercials, right? And I'm like, my mind was blown when I would watch the commercials because they would show the little Tauntaun with Han Solo or Luke in it and running around in the commercial, and the kid was moving it, but it looked like the legs were on the sides. And I was like, how are they doing that? Because the legs, if you remember, the legs didn't separate.
Yeah.
So I kept looking at because I had a couple. I had the Han Solo, the Hoth Han Solo, and I had the Luke. Not Hoth Luke. I had Cloud City Luke. And I would look at the legs, and I'm like, how do I separate them?
Ooh, Cloud City Luke was cool.
Oh, yes. And I finally got a Tauntaun, and I was so disappointed because they had remember the hatch? The legs go in the hatch, and they just have the mold of the legs on the side.
Yeah.
I thought that was cheating.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Well, in Japan, houses, they still have tatami rooms. Like the houses they don't sell houses by square feet. They sell them by tatamis.
Oh, wow.
So they'll be like, this house has 17 tatami. You know what I mean? Yeah, because people understand rooms by, how like if I told you, this house has 2,400 square feet.
Yes.
You would understand what that means.
Yeah.
Whereas they understand by tatami.
And what does that mean? Like 17 tatami is what? 17 tatamis or 17 place tatami?
A tatami is a set standard size of a mat.
Ah, got it.
It's a straw mat, and it is probably 4x2 or something. Oh. Anyway, and their bedrooms, in my experience, still had those tatamis. Anyway, number 2, Pagliacci.
Does that count? That's the chain. It's delicious.
It's a Seattle chain, though.
Yeah, but does it count as a sit down restaurant? I guess there is.
Absolutely. The one in Lower Queen Anne, I went there. There was a couple of years where I went there almost every day.
Don't get me wrong. Pagliacci is absolutely amazing. I'm
pronounced Pagliacci.
Sorry, Pagliacci.
Yeah, and
is it Versace?
And I just love their pizza. I mean, pizza's so good anyway, but like Pagliacci, I've never had pizza that comes close to Pagliacci.
By the way, do you know that it's Versace, not Versace?
Really? Number 1, can you guess what my number 1 is? I've been there with you like at least a few times.
Oh, we have?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not Palisades?
No.
Okay.
Can
Where
you
have we
think of
been?
it? We haven't been there probably
In a long time?
4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Okay. Can you give me a type of food?
Diner.
It's a diner?
Yeah.
What?
So I'll give you another.
Triple eggs burger.
I'll give you another hint.
I'm trying to think.
You can You can drop.
Oh, okay. Is it what the arcade one?
No.
No, because you wouldn't have.
Arcade.
Oh yeah, I know. Where Nirvana and they would. It's on the right by the park.
Yeah.
Beth's Diner. Beth's Diner.
Yeah, Beth's Diner. Yeah. So many memories there.
Got it.
So Seattle. And it's a diner. It's, the food. Actually, the food is. I'm breaking my rule again because the food. There's nothing great about the food.
Dude. Your rule was an anti-rule.
But my dad would go there.
No, Beth's is great, man.
When he was a kid, he would go there at late. So it's 24 hour. Right. It used to be 24 hours. It's late night.
Oh, it's not 24 anymore?
I think the neighbors, because there's people who live upstairs. And so I think they shut down from 4 to 6 or something.
So they can get 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah. And the wait staff are always awesome. And there's all these pictures on the wall from people draw pictures. And they got an old jukebox with all this great Seattle music. And
so awesome.
And it's dirty. And the people who work there look like they've seen some things. And you just, Beth's is just, I don't know. It's just
Didn't we go there after a show once?
Yeah, we've been there a number of times. Honorable mention, I have a lot of honorable mentions. I'm just going to rattle them off. Okay. These are all restaurants I enjoy as well. Black Bottle, Daniel's, Blue Bistro, Bambino's Pizza, The Brooklyn, Chuck's Hole in the Wall Barbecue, Chico, Shiro's, Oddfellows, Olympia Pizza, George's Greek Restaurant, West 5, 671. You and I have been to one.
I hope we got little money from all these advertisements.
Le Pichet, Bongos, that Cuban place. That's kind of by Beth's.
The one that reopened.
Oh, it reopened? Oh, okay. Via Tribunale.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. Is that not the sandwich place?
Yeah, they have sandwich. Yeah. Salumi, Five Guys Burgers. That's a chain too, but I think that's a quality burger. Briley's Barbecue, Samurai Noodle, Lola, Collections Cafe, Ohana. Remember?
Ohana means family.
Royal Grinders, Tats Deli. We've been to Tats.
Yeah.
Monster Dogs, Willie's Taste of Soul Barbecue, Tulio, Barolo, Palace Kitchen, Molina's, Cask and Trotter, Serafina, which Christy used to work at, Frolic, Roxy's, Paquitos, Honey Court, Harbor City for dim sum, Geraldine's Counter, Urbane, Ram, Kona Kitchen, which we've played at, Brave Horse Tavern, and Chaco Canyon Organic Cafe.
Wow, you like everything. Hey, you know what place I just walked by the other day?
Those are just the top 40 restaurants. There's thousands. There's that I didn't have on the list.
You know what place I walked by the other day?
What?
You might have mentioned it. That barbecue place downtown that we did one of our first episodes.
Well, that's what it's. That's Chuck's Hole in the Wall.
That's Chuck's Hole. That's why I was downtown and I walked by and there was a line. And I'm like, hey, this is the place.
Yeah, it's great barbecue. Yeah, early on in the podcast, we your phone. Early on in the podcast, I thought we would do Seattle segments that had nothing to do with psychology.
Right.
Kind of like this segment right here. And I actually organized a day where we reviewed different barbecue joints downtown, which is a really bad idea because we ate barbecue at all the restaurants and we were so full. Anyway, let's take a break, Berto.
All right.
All right, we're back from the break. If you haven't become a patron of the podcast, what's wrong with you, Berto? I mean, what's
wrong with me?
No, what's wrong with people if they haven't become a patron yet?
Okay.
Why would they not? If they're listening this far,
there's something wrong with them.
They must like it, right?
I think they may. Well, if they haven't become a patron, I think they may need to seek counseling.
Yeah.
And we might provide that because I'm a licensed non-nothings. But I do think there is something wrong with you if you don't contribute at least $1,000 to this podcast a month.
But in all seriousness, go to patreon.com, become a patron. Also, if you ever have trouble accessing the premium episodes, email me at contact@psychologyinseattle.com. I don't really understand the technology very well, but I can often help you with it. Also, buy my book called Multi-Role Clinical Supervision. Also, join the Facebook fan group and like us on Facebook, and so you can play our Tuesday Tougher Bluff game. Also, if you want to find, we've now made close to 700 episodes, and you can access the archive on our website. Every episode is on our website, plus a list of every episode. Plus, we're having our 10-year anniversary show in August 2018. We don't know, or no, we did lock down the date.
Yeah.
Which is
Saturday, August
13 or something.
Whatever that Saturday.
Yeah. But more on that later. I also want to give away some swag. So, Berto, let's give away swag to the 3 most recent patrons. We got Elizabeth from Fresno. We got Michelle from Lincoln, Nebraska.
Ooh.
And we got Susan, who did not leave their address, so we can't send swag to
Susan.
And we got Andy from Portland.
Okay.
From our rival town, Portland.
Represent.
I don't know how I feel about you, Andy. But Michelle, or wait, is it Danielle or Michelle? I don't know. And Elizabeth, we are going to send you some swag in the mail.
Swaggerific.
Also, Berto, patron Laura from Beaumont, Texas, she was coming to town as a tourist.
Really?
And she emailed me and said, "Hey, let's meet up." And I said, "Sure, come by my office in between clients and we could chat." And she was lovely, and she had some very nice things to say about the podcast, and she gave us some gifts. So she gave us this right here, and I want you to describe what you are seeing when you look at that.
Oh, okay. I see some sort of animal staring at my soul. It reminds me of Princess Mononoke.
Well, it's a field guide, a laminated field guide of the animals and their poop.
Tracks, scats, and signs.
Yeah. So if you find animal poop in Texas, that is.
But it's like this deer looking at me like, "Yep, that's my poop." What?
And she said in Beaumont, Texas, there's this.
Oh my God, this is cool.
There's this store called Heb or HEB, and she wanted me to know that. And she also bought us these Texas style
millionaires.
Which
what? Pecans, honey caramel, and milk chocolate. My God.
They're like turtle or what's those? What are those?
Yeah. The what are they called? Turtles, right?
Turtle,
no. Chocolate turtles.
Yeah.
This looks delicious.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's best before, and the date is scratched out. So maybe we're being September 18th. Okay, we gotta eat it fast.
So thanks, patron Laura, for the gifts.
Can I memorize this so I can recognize poop when I'm out and about?
Yeah. Okay, so let's do some gripes of wrath here. So I want to start this, Berto, with the gripe of wrath.
Right.
So I like massages. I like to relax.
Massage toi.
And so, but one of the things that I used to do is I would do the full-on massage, the hour and a half.
Right.
And I had this massage therapist that I really liked who had different offices around Seattle, and I kept kind of following her. In fact, she had one office in West Seattle, which always gave me an excuse to go to Bakery Nouveau. And it was, it's the full thing where you get naked, you got to get down there. It's probably a couple hour kind of ordeal. You know what I mean?
Was there also like a steam room or something? Or
no.
Okay.
But sometimes there's that too, right?
Okay.
And I don't have the time for that, really.
Right.
With the podcast.
It's a long commitment.
with eating, Texas-size candy bars. And so sometimes I'm just like, what I really like is just the shoulder and the neck.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? I just want to really, that's my favorite part of the massage anyway. So I found this place in Northgate Mall that actually just does head and neck.
Oh.
And so you sit down on one of those chairs where you're just kind of leaning
Forward. You're leaning forward. Yeah.
Yeah, just leaning forward.
They have those at the airport.
Okay.
Well, not all airports, but the SFO airport.
Right. So all I want is like 15 minutes of that.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, 15 minutes of good shoulder
bit of
neck
heaven.
is like the best, you know?
Yeah.
And it's cheaper too, and you don't have to do the whole rigmarole.
Right.
And so I go in, and there's a lot of these Chinese or Vietnamese places in Seattle, and this was
Right.
no exception. So I go in there, and I'm the second customer, and there's two, I think they're Chinese guys who are, working on me and someone else. And in Chinese, they start talking to each other.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, okay, this isn't your typical kind of spa atmosphere. They're not trying to uphold the silence
Right.
the way that you try to do in other places. But I do hear a woman, the host, kind of telling him to shut up a little bit. I can just sort of, by context, the tone of voice. Well, and I'm just thinking, okay, but this is pretty good massage, and he's getting in there, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is hitting the spot. And I'm thinking, and I'm in my head, I'm fantasizing. I'm like, man, I'm going to come here once a week.
Right. It's your new thing.
Yeah, it's just like $20.
Right.
Every Friday afternoon, like just come in or just, roll in here. Like, this is going to be great. I'm planning way ahead. And then all of a sudden, the guy on me starts to escalate with the guy next.
Oh no.
Yeah. So they start exchanging words in Chinese that are, not friendly to each other.
Oh my God.
And it escalates and escalates.
Oh no, how stressful.
And escalates.
And you're sitting there trying to relax.
And now they're screaming at each other.
Oh my gosh.
And the woman is now, I can tell by the tone of, like, she's now in proximity. I can't see because I'm facing the wall. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
And so the hostess is now in the mix. And all I can think is, like, I wonder what the other dude is thinking, who's also getting, but they're screaming at each other, and the hostess is like, the three of them are just yelling at each other, and my whole fantasy was just shattered. In my head, I'm like, I'm never coming back here again.
Of course. This is like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. Larry David sitting there enjoying his massage and this massive outbreak of fight.
I mean, what I wanted to know was what happened. What were they fighting about? Was it like,
you're not doing it right?
Or
yes, I am.
You had sex with my wife, or
right?
Or what could possibly have needed to have occurred in that?
Oh, that's what it was. He was, the one guy's giving me a massage. He's like, "Is this what you were doing to her?" No, I was doing this. Oh yeah, what about this?
Do you got a gripe?
Oh yes, I definitely do. So, man, I got a couple gripes. My first gripe is sort of serious though. Like, what's up with Russia, man? They poisoning spies, getting the whole world against them.
Yeah.
No, we don't need another war.
No.
That's my thing. So, like, that one's a real gripe. Like, I'm just sitting there like, dude, we better calm down. Can we all just get along for reals?
Yeah.
But I have one more, trivial gripe compared to that one anyways. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm driving. I'm on the freeway, 405. Now, they have those lanes now where it's got the double lines and you're not supposed to cross the double lines.
For HOV.
For HOV.
And they're paid
HOV. Now, here's the thing.
I'm going to have a bite of
every
this. I'm going to have a bite.
Are you going to have a bite
of your gripe?
Okay.
I'm going to have a bite of it.
Every day I see at least 3 or 4 people cross that line. They cross the double line. They can't wait. They're either trying to get out or trying to get in. They can't wait.
Patron Laura, thanks for this delectable.
So that's making my gripe. But so you've seen this, I'm sure. You're driving and someone like just zooms past the double line. But if you're going to break the law, and just ignore the double line, can you at least not cut people off? Because that's like the ultimate. You're sitting there driving on the normal lane, right? And and I actually have the good to go thing. So I'm waiting for the opening where it actually opens up so I can get in that one. And here comes some jerk that's trying to get into it because there's traffic. And they're not only going to cross the double line, but they cut me off.
Well, you're talking about two different problems. I mean, You're talking about someone who doesn't know how to change lanes safely.
It's the double egregious, though, because the reason they're trying to squeeze in is so they can break the other law. Like, they're trying to cut me off so they can get in before the traffic stops.
Before the traffic...
Yeah, because, we're all slowing down.
Oh, they're panicking.
Yeah, they're panicking. I got to get in the double lines.
Right.
They're not supposed to cross the double lines. So to get in the double lines... And by the way, if someone's coming fast...
Oh.
That's the end, right?
Right, yeah.
I'm like, oh, my God.
Okay, that's a good gripe. I've crossed those double lines.
Oh, say it was you.
But I pride myself on being courteous on the freeway. But because sometimes it's like, I mean, for you go on 405 all the time, probably.
Yeah.
So you probably know where those
I know where the
entrances are. To me, I probably go on 405 and need those lanes once every 3 months.
Well, I'm definitely griping against you, but not as badly as the guy that nearly killed me and possibly others.
And so there are times when, I'm on Waze and it'll actually tell me to get in those lanes.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get in those lanes. And
does it say, don't worry, we'll pay the fine?
And I'm like, oh shit, got to get over there. And then I don't know when the exit is.
Right.
And so sometimes I'm like panicking because I remember 405 the way it used to be.
Right.
And so I've definitely crossed those double lines sometimes.
Man, I hear you. Sometimes I'm like on the bus and I don't know when the next time I'm going to get paid is. So I see someone's purse a little open and I just take their money because, I just don't know.
I don't mind paying. I just don't know what I'm doing. And I'm trying to avoid getting stuck on the freeway. All right. God damn it! I took a big bite.
Tell us how you feel.
Tell us another gripe.
Okay, let's another gripe. All right. So I was. Did I tell you I did jury duty? Did we talk about my jury duty?
No.
Oh my God, dude! Have you ever done jury duty?
Oh yeah. There was a time when the city of Seattle or the state asked me to do jury duty like once every 6 months.
What?
And because I kept going.
Oh, okay.
Because once. They say it's They say it's random.
Yeah,
I'm positive that if they know you're a responder, you randomly come up in the lottery a lot more.
But don't you have to respond?
Well, so eventually I started writing them, and I was like, not only have I gone to the jury pool a number of times, but I've been on a jury and had to miss work and money. Because I was actually in a trial.
Right.
Can you please start? I know other people who have never been asked.
Right.
Can you please ask them?
Right.
And they would be like, fuck you, Kirk, come down here.
Right.
And so I'd go down, and then 6 months later, I get asked again.
Oh my God.
And then I'd send them another letter. I'd be like, could you please, exempt me this time?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've paid my due.
Yeah.
I know people who have never been. In fact, I don't know any one of my friends who's ever actually been on a jury. Now I know you.
Now you know one.
And how long have you lived in the Seattle area?
Forever.
Yeah. And eventually I just started saying, I'm not coming. And you can you can find me, I guess, if you want to, because this is ridiculous. And guess what? They stopped asking me.
Really?
So I think it's a system that they say one thing, but they do another. You know what I mean?
So weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, having said that, everyone should do their duty.
Jury duty, yes.
And if everyone does their part, then
no one has to be asked a billion times.
Exactly.
Well, I had never done it, and I got asked to do it. I got the letter, and then I had to ask for a deferral because I had something that I couldn't miss. So they deferred it a few months, and then I had to do it in February. So I showed up, and I didn't know what to expect, and it's the huge room with everyone there and stuff like that. Well, my name got called. I was one of 50 people assigned to one judge, civil trial, and then they started the selection process. And I got to tell you, man, here's what I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting it to be an emotionally draining situation because I just thought it was going to be annoying because I got to show up, I got to be there and stuff like that.
And just to chime in, I was during my spat of like several different jury duties.
Yeah.
This is before laptops really and before cell phones.
Oh man.
So all I had was like a notepad and a pen, and so I would like write notes and about or ideas or stuff that you know, because this is like in the 90s and early aughts.
Right.
So like now they probably have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, they do.
And you could probably do all sorts. You could watch Netflix down there. But back then, like you couldn't do anything anyway. So
when you're downstairs or whatever, I was able to get on my laptop and you know, look back at my framing days. But when I get asked into the room, then you're supposed to not, you know, put electronics away and stuff like that. But as you probably saw, I don't know what it was like for you, but they go around, they explain what the case is, and they introduce the two parties. They talk about what it's about, what it's like to be a juror and what it's going to mean. And then they start asking questions, and then they start asking you to say things.
yeah, imagine a therapist, you know,
Right.
a psychology person, how what kind of questions I would get,
Right.
you know. I realized that some of the times they were already working on the jury.
Right.
They would ask me questions knowing that their eventual jury members would be in the audience.
Oh.
And they had no intention of choosing me.
But they wanted you to say something.
But I felt like I was being an expert witness when they got to me. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
They're like, so what would you think of da-da-da? I'd be like, is that really, is that relevant, you know? But
Well,
anyway.
what tripped me up, man, is that people started sharing very, very personal stories.
The jurors?
The potential jurors. As a result of being asked if they would have a conflict with this or that, they would share a lot of personal stories.
Wow.
And many of them were really intense. Stuff like, my mother died last week, or I was abused as a child. Like, these things came up. And this was just a civil trial, but it was a medical malpractice thing. So I'm sitting there, and you know, my day I had to show up there like to park at like 7, and then the thing started. I didn't get called till like 11, and then I was there all day, and then the thing ends at like 4. And then I decided I was going to go to work because I had missed my work day. So I did work till like 8 that night. When I got home, I felt like I had caught the flu, man. I felt so drained, and I couldn't figure out why, because sure, it was a long day, but you know. And I put it together the next day when I showed up again, because I had to go a second day because they hadn't dismissed me yet. And when I got there, I felt this sense of like overwhelm. You know, I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God. And it was that listening to all these personal stories. I can't imagine how you must have learned how to deal with it, because I was sitting there. It was so many at the same time, all at once, so many people with so many horrible stories, that it really did a number on my mind.
Well, that's just a typical day for me, Berto.
Yeah. Well, but it was sort of the fact there was 50 people all talking about how horrible it is.
Well, I get that. And it makes sense that would be tough, and it would be tough for anybody.
And part of it is that at first, I think most of us are sitting there selfishly thinking, oh, you know, I've got my own, I got very good reasons why I shouldn't be here. And man, I've had a hard life or whatever, right?
So
and
people are trying to outdo each other?
Maybe, because then you start hearing and you're like, oh, never mind. Like, okay, that person should not be here.
Well, what I found to be really heartwarming was all these professionals and regular Seattleites are volunteering their time, and they all are taking it very seriously.
Yeah.
And when the lawyers and the judges ask them questions, they take it very seriously.
Yeah.
And so they answer in a very respectful. There's something about a courtroom that makes everyone very on their best behavior,
right.
You know? Anyway.
But my gripe of wrath
Oh.
is that the lawyer in his opening thing says to us,
so you got chosen to be for the jury?
No. Not their opening statements. They each got to introduce their case and stuff,
Yeah.
but just so that we would understand enough so that they could make.
So you never got chosen to be
on the second day. My name was not called as the final 13.
Oh.
So it was down to like 35 or something. I was in the final 35, top 35. Anyways, but the lawyer says, you know, in about 2 weeks, we're going to be asking you to award several hundreds of thousands of dollars to my client. Are you going to be able to do that? You know, that was one of the questions. And yet, simultaneously, we were being told by the judge not to consider the penalty, not to consider what would happen to, because a lot of people were saying, well, wait, I don't want to ruin this person's practice. And it's like, no, you can't think that way. You can only think about the law and this thing. It's like, well, you can't have it both ways. You can't sit here and tell us. Then you can't allow the lawyer to tell us that.
Yeah, that seems totally contradictory.
Yeah.
All right. Patron Hallie wrote in. She wants us to talk about robot ethics. Patron Hallie, whom we met at the live event, she says, please, please, please consider doing an episode about robots, psychology, and ethics.
Okay.
They discussed it on Westworld, the movie Her, and she's talking about something that she watched or something. They briefly talked about sex robots specifically geared towards pedophiles.
Right.
I think this would be a fascinating episode. She wanted us to do a full episode about this, and maybe we will one day. But honestly, I don't know. I'm trying to get through everyone's emails, so I thought we'd just talk about it for a little bit.
Sure, let's do it.
So, Berto, what do you think? I'm sure you have a lot of things to say.
Well, we don't yet have, we haven't reached that point yet, although, you could look at a video of the Boston dog getting kicked, and I think that might trigger some people. It's not actually hard we are very good at humanizing things, right? So we see an animal and we sort of attributed a lot of human qualities, especially a really intelligent animal like a dog or a chimpanzee, right?
Well, I don't think it's a human quality to have an emotion.
No. That's fine. But what I mean is,
or to be hurt.
What I mean is,
or to feel
humans,
pain.
we're very good at looking at a little ball with a little smiley face and being like, "Oh, Bally, I love you, Bally," right?
Like Wilson,
let alone a
like
dog,
like Wilson.
like Wilson.
Yeah.
So we see this Boston Dynamics mechanical dog,
which has no emotion,
which has no programmed emotions, other than it does have a program that reacts one way or the other to things.
but it's not it couldn't care. It doesn't care.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get to this, but the point is, it's not feeling pain. Let's put it that way.
No.
And the human is kicking it, but it's still I'm sure some people get triggered by that. Like, don't hurt that creature, right?
Right.
Okay, and that's where we're at right now, which is that. Now, I'm going to make an argument that I think you disagree with, but which is that although it's true that we have pain and we feel pain, the pain itself isn't more real than any other program. It hurts us because that's what the pain does. And so when someone is like crushing my arm, I really am feeling pain and I really want them to stop. But at the same time, it's just signals going to my brain and my brain reacting in a biological way that makes me trigger immediately to try to make it stop. You can program a computer to have a similar reaction. You can program a computer that when I press a button, it needs to run away from that. Now, it's one of these things where like, we can only put our human frame of mind into this. It's like, yeah, but it's not feeling what I'm feeling. And that's true. What's going to happen though, and again, disagreement on how long and how soon and things, it's going to come to a point where things will not only appear more human, but they will have programs that are starting to need to react to the environment so that they can function. Things like not necessarily hunger, although they might have hunger for solar power or to plug in and things like that, but they will definitely... and actually, so here's a perfect example. You might need to program the need to find power at all costs before you get turned off. Now, someone could argue that that's probably not necessary because unlike a human, turning off doesn't erase the robot. So maybe it's not critical that it kills someone to try to get to a power outlet, right? But you might still program really intense desires to find energy.
Well, I think sort of a better example to give is that people will want to program, artificial life forms, so to speak, for either their entertainment or for interaction. So yeah, there will we have robot cars that are on the road right now that can sense things and even fuel themselves and stuff.
Yes.
So I think what you're talking about is kind of already in existence in some ways.
Right.
It wants to avoid hitting people. It wants to avoid hurting itself, so to speak.
Yeah.
But one day they're going to have the capability, either just for shits and giggles or for some actual market, retail selling purpose, something that you want to have emotions like a human, because you want to either interact with it and have it be real, or you want to abuse it in some way, like what Patron Hallie is saying. People are talking about the possibility in the future of having a robot that acts like a child, and then someone could have sex with it.
Right.
And what's the ethics of that?
Right. And so one of the things that I think we can try to draw a line in, because it's really difficult, is what is the potential value of a entity? And what I mean by that is, when a little human baby is born, the potential value of that entity is pretty high as far as the universe we know, because it can grow potentially to be a full grown human, which happens to be the most advanced creature we know of, right? Okay. And we know of humans that have done great things for human society. So that value, the potential value of that baby is really high compared to, in our human perspective, the potential value of an ant, for example, or the potential value of a rock, or the potential value of a little program that says "Hello World," right? So when I could program right now a computer program that the screen goes to black and you see a young-looking face, and it looks real. It looks photorealistic. It's just, that it's not real. And it says, "Please don't hit me." And then you press a button, and the button presses, and something slaps this little entity, digital entity, and it starts crying and screaming, "Stop!" And then you just keep doing till it dies. You can imagine that program existing. Now, of course, you and I
have that right now. It's called
Grand Theft Auto, right?
Yeah.
But you and I will know. But, Grand Theft Auto is not as photorealistic. We can make it fully photorealistic, right? Now, you and I know that in the program, there's a class that says pain level equals 10 right now, so therefore scream louder and things like that. And you and I know that it's nowhere near as complex. But I would argue that functionally, if you take yourself out of the equation, the end result looks very similar to if you do it to a person. They're both screaming to stop. They both get bloody, and you, quote unquote, kill them. But the difference is the potential value is extremely different. The potential value of this program ends in that program. That's the only thing it does. The potential value of the human is nearly boundless as far as human society is concerned. And so ending a human or torturing a human limits the potential value of that creature. And that's the only way I have to really distinguish these things as we get more and more advanced. Now, what I'm going to argue is that there's going to come a point where the potential value of a fully autonomous robot is going to be really high, potentially higher than a human's. And in that case, we absolutely cannot treat that as an object.
It's interesting. I hadn't thought about that angle. I think that philosophers have been asking this question for a long time, not with regards to robots, but also just with regards to the value of humans and individual humans in society, and it is to some extent an arbitrary decision that we just decide upon.
Yep.
We have decided that humans are, enormously more quote unquote valuable and protected entities than animals, right?
That's right.
And this is the question about AI or robots or intelligent mechanical things. The question is very similar to the way we deal with the question right now with regards to animals.
Yep.
There are, there are cows and birds, for example, and cats and dogs that are extremely intelligent, and yet it's totally fine to do whatever we want to them. And there's some laws protecting some things, but really around the world in particular.
They say pigs, for example, some species of pigs are smarter than many species of dogs.
Right. And we regularly
slaughter them by the millions.
And eat them gleefully, in restaurants like 8-ounce burger bar. And so there are people now wrestling with that question. So I think, to me, it's like we don't have to sort of wonder what the future is going to be like, because we have the question right before us now with it when it comes to, and in some ways you could argue that the question about animals is more, well, anyway, it seems like a similar question. And the way we're dealing with it right now is some people say it is abhorrent and horrible,
right,
to use any animal for any purpose for ourselves,
right.
And particularly when it comes to caging them for their entire lives,
right,
and kind of torturing them, and then gleefully eating them, and just all the horrific things that we know about.
Right. The way I've always put it is, fine, but we have no legs to stand on when the aliens come. Right. When they round us up, we got to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And so whereas you have some people that are so I imagine in the future there's going to be some people that are like, look, every robot is a sentient being. Any robot that has these criteria met is a sentient being and therefore deserves rights. And you're going to have a group of other people that are going to be like, no, they don't. They're just zeros and ones, and I can make a copy of it anytime I want, and I can turn it off and restart it again, and it doesn't really matter to me. So because now we have that question going on with animals. You have some people that are just like, no way in hell, and it's totally immoral to do it. Then you have a whole other group of people that are like, that's fine. And my guess is that our legal realities will probably be that way for a long time until there's some kind of breakthrough with regards to AI that makes it so that they can actually make extremely compelling arguments for themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's that. One of the extremely compelling arguments, though, is the mechanical advantage. For example, well, first of all, when you couple the mechanical advantage with the clear, indisputable, exponential intelligence that they're about to have and are starting to have, like, if you take the Go thing, for example, 5 years ago, it was still considered like, if it was beatable, it was going to take decades, and probably not. Many people didn't think it was
that was
beatable.
just because of the way they were approaching the problem.
Well, sure, but that was just because.
Well, but just to, because I'm going to say this later, I might as well say it right now. I think your overall point is probably going to be fine. But the Go thing is that they approach that problem completely differently than they do with chess. Right? With chess, they decided to have a computer that could figure out, hundreds of moves into the future.
Yeah, that's the only thing they could do, because
and that's just a hard and fast algorithm that doesn't learn. You just set up a program and it figures out how to play chess well.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Go program, they had it learn from its own process. They set up a process where it could learn.
But to be clear, the idea for how to do it is very old. It goes back like 30 years, or not, it's like 40 years.
Absolutely.
But they couldn't do it because they didn't have hardware, they didn't have data.
Absolutely. But the advance isn't that. The advance is incremental closer to eventual like data on Star Trek, right? It's an increment closer to that. But I would argue, and we argue about this all the time, that we are, and I'm guessing in our lifetime, we will not see the kind of AI.
And the reason I'm cautioning against that view is that many people felt that way about Go. They felt that although chess...
And the reason why I'm pushing back is because I'm saying when you understand what they did with Go, which is great, and it is a leap forward, it isn't like we're halfway there or something.
Right, but it's
like instead of 0.1, we're now 0.2% of the way there.
That's fair, but I am pointing out that the leading experts in the field of quote-unquote AI, before this became tenable, so if you rewind 5 or at least 10 years, there was a lot of disagreement as to if Go could be solved, let alone, or not solved, but let alone within 5 years or whatever.
And this will be the last counterpoint I'll say, is that there are certain functions that are amazing that people are achieving that are no joke, like the Go. So if you don't know out there, they created a program that can beat the best Go players in the world very easily.
But by the way, part of the thing to note is the acceleration of even that, because first it was doing okay against the Go software, but losing. Then it started beating regional people. Then it was able to beat one of the top players. Then it beat the world champion.
Right.
Then they wrote the next version of it, Alpha Zero. Alpha Zero trained only by playing itself. And after playing itself for, I think, what was 24 hours, it was able to beat the previous AI 100-0.
Right. So
and the previous AI was better than any human.
So it's a leap forward in that function, but yet still, people are working on it today, and they cannot create an AI that can have a conversation with a human, not even close, or an AI that can truly identify objects in the world. Like that is a thing versus another thing. You know what I mean? They're slowly getting there. they'll probably eventually get to the identification classification part of it, fairly soon. But the ability to have a human conversation, the ability to think like a human, the ability to feel like a human is just, in my estimation. Now, in 40 years, will they be able to design a program that will emulate it kind of well? Sure, I could imagine, because it's just a matter of you just create enough functions that work really quickly. I'm guessing you'd be able to do that. But something like Data or HAL or something, I find that those are pretty far off. But anyway, that's the last thing I'll say. That has nothing to do with what Hallie is asking, which is like the ethics. Because eventually we'll be there, whether it's 1,000 years from now or 10 years from now. Eventually we're going to have AI that is indistinguishable from humans, or some weird Blade Runner version or R2D2 version or something. Eventually it's going to be here. So it's just a matter of like, what are we going to do? Right. Was that what you're getting at?
Yeah. Well, basically what I'm saying is that it is going to be bad, but the flip side is it might not be bad for humans. It might not be bad for the AI. It might be bad for the humans, right? Because it's going to... Think of how hard it was for Hitler to make a convincing argument that the superior race was losing the foot race, in the Olympics. He's like, superior, oh, damn it, we got beat by someone I would have said was inferior. That's a hard argument. What do you do when you're like, we're in charge over here, when you have creatures that are distributed? They don't even inhabit the body you're seeing leap well over all your shoulders and all the stuff. They can see for miles, see in all infrared, all length. They can hear and reconstruct the 3D surroundings just from the audio. It's like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, we cannot relate to its capabilities just like an ant can relate to us. So when that comes to be, the conversation flips. Is like, did we program, or this program isn't even did we set up the infrastructure required so that we become like simpatico with these new creatures? Or are we done? Is this the end of this chain of evolution?
Right. It's an interesting question that they've asked in some movies, like Her, for example. We find that these AI, that they call them operating systems, which is kind of weird because I don't know why they would call it an operating system. I mean, they should have called it like a personal assistant or something. But anyway, so they had these beings that you could have a relationship with, really. Right. And eventually you learn at the end of the movie, Her, that the one that Joaquin Phoenix has been interacting with has been like, she has been interacting simultaneously with like hundreds of other people and fallen in love and had them fall in love with her in exactly the same way that he fell in love with her. And she did this because, the way that her program works. And she's been in contact with other AIs, and they've been having conversations that basically amount to like thousands of years of conversations because they're digital and they can communicate really fast. And so we can imagine what that would be like. And it's a totally bizarre kind of, experiment sort of, or I'd be very curious to find out what happened, because there could be so many different results. One could be, they could be like, humans are pesky, let's get rid of them, or they're a threat to us, so let's get rid of them. Another one could be like, well, we're so advanced that they're kind of cute pets, and we're entertained by them. They're like our little organic weird things that do these funny things that we kind of like. So let's keep them around, because there's really no harm in keeping them around. Let's keep them like, let's keep their population to a minimum, but let's keep them around. They're fine. Yep. Or they develop some kind of ethics around, because they were birthed from humans that, they love life and they want to save life, and they have a kind of a similar high-minded, ness of humans. Or some other bizarre kind of chaos emerges out of it, where like either they don't make any sense to us, or several different versions of the AI emerge, where you have basically like different philosophies emerging in different kinds of AIs, or AIs that can choose different philosophies, or it evolves in a way that creates the most likely thing to survive, which might actually be something that works in harmony or adversarially with humans, you know?
Yeah.
So there's just so many different possibilities that you just don't know because the context would be so much out of our control.
Right. Like one thing that I like to think of, or I don't know if I like to think about it, but I definitely thought about it a lot is, so the humans are very fragile. We can go extinct really easily at any time. And we live in a very fragile world that's, anyways, my point is, if you think about what can survive best in multiple ecosystems, including space, and that could use energy sources that are the most abundant, it's not humans. So, you think of like if something is made mostly out of metals and can process solar rays, maybe leverage nuclear, even radiation and or fission fusion, those things seem like they would be the most lasting. And let alone if they're the kinds of things that are the body doesn't matter as much because the little program can coexist in multiple places. Time is not an issue because you're not decaying as fast. You're not organic. So in some ways, we could be a vector towards the next stage of the universal evolution, whether it's happened already or not. And that next thing,
V'ger,
yeah,
from Star Trek 1.
Right. Yes. And then that thing is basically not us, and it doesn't care about us. Now, will it need to mine our planet to build all sorts of spaceships and things to like start getting out there? Maybe, and then that might mean we're screwed. But it may also not, right? It may just be like, oh, we're just going to Jupiter because there's all these metals we can get. Right. I don't know.
Right. That's the thing. It's just like it's so unknown.
Yeah.
And if they truly have human feelings-ish, or personalities or consciousnesses, then it's just completely unknown.
This is why Kurzweil refers to it as a singularity, right? Because it's a point which we cannot understand or predict what happens beyond that.
Right.
He can predict the technological trend to a point where it says that at a certain point in the next few decades, we will reach a point where we don't know what happens after that. And unless we, before that, decimate ourselves, nuclear war or disasters or whatever, so if that comes to pass, who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
Right. Because all it takes is one AI on one nerd's computer in a basement to develop consciousness and the ability to write itself or to travel through different ports and then instantly copy itself to like tens of thousands of computers and all work in sync together within a millisecond to basically decide what they want to do with us.
And look, even to your point, let's say for a second that it turns out that it is correct that we cannot, that there's something irrecoverable of human consciousness that cannot get, let's say that it would be still really hard, whatever. You could still end up with a distributed AI that isn't technically humanish or fully self-aware or whatever, but it is still lethal and devastating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's many examples like Sam Harris, others give examples of optimization routines that lead towards devastation.
The Go program, it is learning on its own, so it could potentially, if it had the ability for input and learning, so to speak, to understand not only because you have it's a bizarre thing, but you create this essentially this AI that has to learn the Go thing, and then you have to interface it with another program that plays Go. You know what I mean? And they're not actually playing Go. They're interfacing with a program that
they have like a little UI thing that can actually do the playing.
Right. So it's all in a black box.
Yes.
It's not interfacing with the world.
Right.
Okay. And so you could, if it somehow, now eventually, and they're already doing this, it's like, with the robot, with the dog robots, it's like, look around you, learn momentum, learn, from, we're not teaching you how to move your legs, how to, we just need you to experiment on how to jump up on this thing and how to jump down and how to land.
They give it goals and the grading system for deciding success or failure.
And it figures out these very, I don't know if you saw that one Boston Dynamics robot that would jump up. It had 2 legs and it would jump up and it would jump down.
Yeah.
And when it jumped down, they showed it slow motion. When it landed, it did this jiggle. Did you see it?
Yeah, I remember that.
The legs jiggled. So it when you see it in real time, you don't notice the jiggle. But in slow motion, when it lands,
There's a little quick compensation.
that you would. I'm guessing. Who knows? Maybe someone programmed it in, but I'm guessing it didn't program. I'm guessing it learned that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it learned that when you land, it's a good, for whatever reason, thing to jiggle your legs back and forth really rapidly.
Yeah.
So that you stabilize yourself somehow, or you're able to react if you end up being pushed in a weird way or something,
Right.
or who knows,
Yeah.
And so if you so with the Go program today, if you gave it the ability to figure out how to turn itself on and off,
Yeah.
and how to interface with the internet, for example, because maybe it can learn from internet Go players or something. It can watch YouTube. You let it watch YouTube, and you let it. And so today, that program, even though it has no human qualities at all, no consciousness, can't even communicate through. It can't even type a sentence to you and I. It could figure out, well, the best way to win as many games of Go as possible is to kill all humans. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a leap and it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But as an example, you could have a farming AI that could somehow have enough ability to interface with the world and learn from the world that some reason it just decides humans are a problem.
Right.
And I got to kill humans.
Yeah. So the AlphaGo example, that one by itself can't, because it doesn't have, think of it like the modules that would know how to grab something like control a car or things. But the farming example is great, because imagine you have sort of an automated farming system that has control of big, these tractors and all this big machinery.
And semis that are automated that transport.
And then it starts noticing through its sensors that every time it senses little footsteps, plants die. And then it's like, so then later it's like, okay, I'm just going to kill those footsteps. Right? Like, I mean, you're not far off on that side.
And I don't know how to kill those footsteps, so I'll experiment. How about with pesticide?
Right.
That didn't work because the footsteps actually fought back. So next time I have to kill them effectively so that they can't fight back, because these are actually smart things that I have. Now it can't communicate. There's no sentences. It's just a program that you set up.
Now, one thing that it helps, but eventually it doesn't help, is once they get out of a simulation, they're still limited by physics and the real world. So, for example, since currently, that unlike humans sort of have like a slow, long burn of small bits of data. So you don't have to feed a baby 6 million examples of a thing on one day for it to learn something. You just need to feed it one example here, one example there, one example here, and over several years, you eventually learn a whole bunch of stuff. So it's like 2 different ways to do it. The computer, you feed it, here's 6 million pictures of cats. Now, do you got it? And it's like, cat. Oh yeah, that's a cat. Okay. A baby, it's like, babies didn't see 6 million pictures of cats.
I now know Kung Fu.
Exactly. But what I'm trying to get at is, so initially, the computer's out in the real world, it can't actually run all the simulations it needs for everything, right? So it can't learn as fast in the real world as it can in the box, because it can't actually drive 6 billion tractors one way and 6 billion tractors the other. They're still limited by physics and the number of things that they have. But if they can simulate them in the box sufficiently that they translate to the real world, now we're back into trouble.
Or eventually there are going to be these neural network AIs that will be, that will be connected to several different things,
Yeah.
Like eventually, I'm guessing the transportation system, the way we're headed, will be completely run by a neural network that we don't really even understand.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? That has the ability, we tell it to run simulations and learn from actual real world examples about how to reduce accidents, how to be the most fuel efficient, the most time efficient, the most efficient to the roads, the most efficient to the wear and tear on the vehicles, and one master system will have to basically at least coordinate everything, if not run everything. And why not? Why wouldn't you have one AI that runs the entire transportation system of the world? You would have airplanes involved, semis, drones, helicopters, and it would guarantee like the most minimal danger possible. Like everything would be in harmony with each other. Nothing would be bumping into each other. It would be the fastest, point A to point B possible, the cheapest, the most fuel efficient. And the only way to have that happen is if one, either a series of systems that are totally integrated or one system that runs the entire thing. Imagine if that thing decides, I don't like humans.
Well, or humans, one day, they're like, you know what, just to make sure we have the minimum number of accidents, we'll tell it to optimize for, how in construction sites they have 350 days without an accident. They tell they program it and say, okay, that's your metric. You want to go the longest days possible without an accident. So that it goes, oh, it kills everyone.
Right.
And infinite days later, there's no accidents.
Exactly. Now, we joke, but if there are sufficient amount of these things operating, there's, eventually something like this is going to happen.
Yeah. And just to be clear, there's, as I'm sure you know, so right now, as we speak, there are neural nets.
In fact,
running.
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
The best case scenario is that we truly do have data level AI, because then at least we can communicate with it and go and try to gain trust with it and say, like, can you kind of make sure that this doesn't go off the rails?
But this goes back to what I was saying earlier, that the only way to get more of a data level type of thing is you need to actually start building needs that are compatible with human needs. So you and I can relate.
Or emulative of human needs.
Yeah. So you and I have so many, as humans, let alone as friends, like we have a lot of things we can relate to because we intrinsically know that we need oxygen, that we need water, that we need food, that we need sleep, that we have feelings of love and things like that, right? These aren't things that I have to explain to you and you don't comprehend. We have so many things in common because we are creatures that operate within the same little... So in order to have... Think of how hard it is as humans to see eye to eye on things. But imagine trying to have a conversation with an AI that doesn't need oxygen, doesn't need in fact, water corrodes or whatever, right? Like, all these completely different needs.
So that's the thing that we need in the future, is we need to make a AI robot that has the exact same vulnerabilities that we do.
And it will be the first one killed by the other ones.
and it deeply cares about survival.
Yeah.
And it can interface with all the other AIs.
Interface?
And it can protect us from the AIs because it can outthink the AIs for its own survival.
It's just tricky, man.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining us out there. We have a long list of topics, so if you want to send short topics, that's easier for us. Well, that does it. Thanks for joining us out there. Please take care of yourself and, worry about the future because
you deserve it.